Ah, Sonic the Hedgehog, a series with a legendary impact on the face of gaming, yet for the past 2 decades has been struggling heavily to make games as highly praised as they once were. The poor guy's been through a lot, to say the least. The Saturn was a loss, the Dreamcast was a loss, Sega had to become a third-party developer, his creator was a naughty boy, and with all the cuts in budget and rush to get games out on time, it's all taken a heavy toll. There are quite a few bad Sonic games, and many more that aren't seen as bad, just mediocre. One of them being Sonic Lost World. This is one of those games I was obsessed with as a kid, for some reason, watching all the cutscenes on YouTube and hoping someday that I could get to play it. But pretty soon I just kinda forgot about it, and by the time I got a Wii U of my own, I saw other people's reviews of the game, and I realized that it probably wasn't the masterpiece of a game I thought it was. But recently I found a copy at a mall convention for like 20 bucks, and thought, you know what, why not? So I bought it. Now let's play it and see who's right, 11-year-old me or the collective opinion of tens of thousands of people online. And this might be a little early in the video to state my opinion of the game, but it's alright. Good for the most part, with a lot of meh aspects and a few crappy ones. To begin, let's start with the story. As a kid, watching all the cutscenes, I thought the story was pretty epic. But watching everything unfold again, yeah, it's not as good as I remember. It starts with Eggman and Sonic having an air battle high in the sky, but eventually Sonic and Tails go off course and discover the Lost Hex, a lost world that really doesn't have that much different from the rest of the Sonic world, but there needed to be some gimmick to sell this game. Eggman gets some new minions to help him too, the Zeddy. They're these human-like creatures with awesome powers. To keep them under his control, Eggman has a conch shell that causes them pain whenever it's played. Sonic fucks up though, and kicks it out of Eggman's hand in the second world, freeing the Zeddy. Unfortunately, they now have control of all his weapons and machines, including a reactor that sucks the life force out of living things, and can drain the whole Earth of its energy. So Eggman and Sonic now have to work together to save the Earth, and along the way have a lot of fights and arguments. The Zeddy, while somewhat cool, weren't quite executed right. There are 6 in total, and almost all of them are one note. Zavok is your token evil mustache twirling villain. Zaz is weird. Zamon is fat. Zeke is old. Xena is a girl, and Vidor is a depressed emo kid. So basically me when I started this channel. They really needed to be expanded a bit more. Their origin story, their relationship with each other, etc. Without all of that, they're just another generic team of baddies like the Kooplings, which is fine and all. But they're just they're kind of forgettable. The Zeddy are battled multiple times throughout the journey, but the battles are way too short and way too easy. And on top of that, they all have to give commentary in the middle of the level too, which on one hand is kind of annoying, but on the other it does add a certain charm. Moving back to the cutscenes, I honestly really liked them. An unpopular opinion to be sure. The animation, the voice acting, and dialogue is really good, and there are tons of hilarious moments. However, the story tries too hard to be dark, with needless tension all over the place. From a dark cutscene of Amy talking about how life is being drained from the world, to Sonic and Tails having a fallout almost. Speaking of which, this game isn't exactly Tails' greatest hour to be sure. As a kid, he was one of my favorite Sonic characters, but man is he annoying in this game. He's a know-it-all, is always being difficult, and trying so hard to impress Sonic. And like always, Eggman is the best character, with most of the good and funny lines being his.
I will burn your world, you rebellious scum! I will destroy everything you love and make you rot! No! No! No!
Boss, your hands!
As long as I can still strangle a Zeddy, my hands are fine.
I can't figure you out. One second you're contemplating genocide, and the next you're saving one of your worst enemies.
I'm a complicated guy. You, fat one, go take care of that blue pest.
Hey, who are you calling fat?
You!
So, moving over to gameplay itself, and it's pretty alright. although I do need to get one thing out of the way, the control scheme. As it's one of those games, you know, the ones that require the Wii U gamepad, well, at least for the main story. Don't get me wrong, I do like using the gamepad, but it has its cons. It's a bit bulky. The battery life sucks, and it's hard to replace. I like using it for games that utilize it completely like Nintendo Land, but for a game like this where it's only used for a few commands here and there, I really don't see why we couldn't have just added a Pro Controller option. Other than that, it's good. Just an average 3D Sonic game, similar to Sonic Colors or Generations. Lots of moves come back from previous games like the spin dash and double jump, but you have to press 0 to run fast for some reason. The levels take heavy inspiration and level design from Super Mario Galaxy, such as having multiple areas throughout each stage, and springs that work similar to warp stars and take you to the next segment. The way gravity works though is just a straight rip-off from the Galaxy games, with Sonic being able to go underneath planets and stuff like that. Now, it's not identical or anything, but there are times when I'm playing this when I think to myself, wait, oh yeah, I'm not playing Mario Galaxy, am I? Wisps return as the main power-ups, although not as fun to use as in Colors because of the weird controls. They use either motion controls or touchscreen controls to work, and this is why you have to use the gamepad to play. And it's honestly a pretty crappy reason. It's one of those Wii U games where the developers were struggling to figure out a way to work the gamepad into the game that totally didn't need to use it. Anyway, the Wisps are still fun to use. Most of them come back from colors like Laser, Rocket, Drill, and Hover, but there are also quite a few new ones like Crimson Eagle, which lets you glide, Magenta, which turns Sonic into his music note, and by touching touchscreen he can move around pits, and Indigo, which lets you defy gravity, but it kind of sucks if I'm being honest. The biggest flaw of this game in my opinion is how little there is to do. Again, the levels are okay, but there are only 4 in each world, and the 4th one is the boss stage. On top of that, there aren't many useful collectibles in the stages other than red rings. If you collect every single one in the game, you unlock Super Sonic. Better than nothing to be sure, but I really hate in games when collectibles don't count for anything unless you get 100% of them. A kind of collectible are animals. In fashion of earlier games, Eggman's robots are operated by their energy, and breaking them frees the animals. To take on the last stage of each world, the player needs to have a certain number of animals to progress. Don't worry though, since it doesn't take long at all to reach these numbers. And only like once did I not have enough to progress by the time I got there. And if you don't, there are all these tents full of mini games where you can earn hundreds of animals in one go if you're good. Late into the game, the Zeddy set up a trap capsule for Sonic to fall for, which he does, but Tails pushes him out of the way and gets abducted instead. Why does this seem to be a recurring theme in the franchise? Anyway, Sonic gets pissed when Zavok tells him their plan for Tails.
Hello, Sonic.
Yeah, I've been looking for you.
And we've been looking for you. Unfortunately, we found your friend Tails first.
Hey, you hurt one hair on his head!
Oh, don't worry. We're actually making him better. He'll be much happier as a robot.
No!
This was the one moment that I was obsessed with back then. And yeah, while Tails manages to get out of becoming a cyborg, the idea still kind of fascinates me. It would be dark as hell, that's for sure, but honestly, it would only work for a better Sonic game with a good story. So it's for the better that they played things safe here. The final world, though, is where things get difficult. Yeah, final world, that's hard, big surprise there. Only this one feels less difficult and more cheap in what kills you. Seriously though, I had to grind multiple lives multiple times to even stand a chance because I'm not exactly a skilled gamer. In the last main stage, Zavok becomes a giant. Now, where have we seen that before? This fight really sucks though. At first, I thought you were supposed to try to outrun him, but no. Instead, you're supposed to bounce these crates to hit him. If you miss too many crates, you die. But it's also way too easy to fall off these crates and die. Some of them are too high to jump to without grabbing onto them, which wastes more time, and then Zavok ends up killing you. I died quite a bit to say the least. Surprise, surprise though, Eggman betrays Sonic. Who could have seen that coming? The final fight is somewhat tough, but pretty short. You have to dodge his attacks, and then chain home attack into his cockpit. After doing this twice, his attacks become way harder to dodge, and you can only screw up once, since there's only like one set of rings during the whole fight. But if you can get through that, that's it. Eggman is defeated, Sonic and Tails mend their friendship, the Earth gets its energy back, and everyone is happy. The end. Now for the extras, although there's not much. First, there's a special world with some really challenging levels, but there's only 4 of them, so it only adds like 20 minutes of playtime. Each world also has some secret levels, which I forgot to mention earlier, and some of them are fun, others are not. And after that, we have the multiplayer, which is pretty bad. There is a multiplayer race mode where 2 players race, one uses the gamepad to see their Sonic, and the other one uses the TV screen to see their Sonic. There's probably someone out there who really like playing this all the time with a sibling and has some nostalgic memories of it, but for me, I don't like it. The main story levels are also technically multiplayer, albeit in the same way as the Mario Galaxy games, with player 2 controlling a helicopter that can do very little other than some basic assistance. Then there's all the DLC, which I unfortunately did not get to snag before the eShop closed, unfortunately, so I have no way to ever play it, well, except for emulation. What I do know though is that it all looks pretty cool, consisting of a Legend of Zelda based world, a Yoshi's Woolly World based world, and a Nights into Dreams world. There as well was another wisp, a black wisp, that gives Sonic bomb powers. I feel kind of sad that I missed out on all of this. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, if I had downloaded all of it, I'd probably play stage like once and say it's just cool, and it would have no impact on my enjoyment of the game, but I don't know, it just really bugs me to be able to see something I can never experience. It's kind of like looking into the night sky, knowing humanity will probably never reach any of what you see. Well, that was Sonic Lost World, and it was okay, I guess. I had some fun, but overall, it's just meh. It's not a train wreck, it's not unplayable, it's just lacking that spark Sonic Colors had. If I had gotten to play this when I was 11, I probably would have had a much higher opinion of Lost World, but playing this for the first time at 21, I feel very disappointed. I didn't expect to have a blast or anything, but I don't know, I was kind of expecting it to be the same level of quality that Colors or Generations were. But there is one good thing about this game. It's not Sonic Forces. And no, I am not playing it.